All right. Welcome to Pass the Mic for Friday, August 25th, 2023. Episode, oh my goodness, I gotta look at my notes. 83. Joining me on Zoom, Mr. Michael Gervasi.
Yo, 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 yo.
Have you survived the floods? Are you okay over there? You're not floating around and floating
I'm
to the
not
NW?
floating, thankfully, because when I first moved into the house, I did flood on Mother's Day, actually. And I was in here less than a month at that time. So that was a great introduction to the house, but I didn't get anything last night. So
Yeah, so it was a lot last night. And so hopefully we had to cancel prep day today, move it to
yeah.
Monday. So
Yep.
a lot of feedback from last week. Lots of feedback. Our detective Max Bailey did some He texted us and said, "I'm going to ask some people in the private sector about PD, right? Like work training." And
Mhm.
we're not the only doofuses in education that use the big Post-it notes. We found out that other industries do this as a way to
Yes.
make people, I guess, interact. Okay, so we'll reach out to all these industries. Okay, it's not as cool as you think it is. It's a task just to. I think it's to double check on you to make sure you're listening, and it's not
I,
that unique.
right.
Like save paper, save adhesive Post-it notes. Just ask a question. Like
Yes.
I'll gladly audibly answer the question.
Yes. Conversations are so much better. And for so many
Giving
reasons.
giving me a Sharpie in the corner of the. Oh man, you froze. Are you still here?
I'm
Oh, there
here.
you froze for. Oh yeah, you froze for a second.
Now you're froze. Okay.
Oh, we're getting some tech. The water, the
Must be.
rains of Southeast Michigan. So we did get that. Some PD. Did you get any other PD stuff? I know we have. Well, and also lunch is a big deal. That wasn't just a me thing. A lot of people agreed being able to leave for lunch is a big deal, right? Like that's a key thing. You got some stuff. Coach Tony
Coach Tony.
did a very good job supporting Joe Dumars's Hall of Fame credentials.
He did, and I'm going to address Coach Tony first. Coach Tony, what a loyal listener, nicest guy on the planet, great coach. Man, I feel like I'm bashing Dumars, and I don't want to do that. I came across a quote from former NBA player Gilbert Arenas. He didn't mention Dumars, but he did mention a number of other players. And just with this week, he said on his podcast, he's a rival podcaster. You can't be in that door with Michael Jordan, Larry Bird with mediocre stats. And again, he mentioned some people whose stats are comparable to Dumars. I realized Dumars was a very, very, very good player. I'm not, and maybe Dumars is a person I should leave out. I went on and looked up some NBA players that are controversially not in the Hall of Fame. Mark Jackson's another player who's one of the all-time leading assists. He might be the leader in assists. Statistics sometimes, I'm sure Max Bailey is turning it over right now in his metaphorical grave. Sometimes statistics don't matter to me as much. This is one that doesn't. I don't know if he's first or second or whatever, but the guy made one All-Star team, and people feel like he should be in the Hall of Fame. And Mike, I'm just asking, like, where is the line? Dumars to me was a very, very, very good player. Is that the criteria for making the Hall of Fame? And there is no criteria, and that's fine. To me, Dumars was just never a top 20 or even top 30 player in the NBA. I respect what Tony said, but where is that line? And, I think Dumars was a better NBA player than Mark Jackson. But statistically, if Mark Jackson's in the top 5 in assists, doesn't that make him statistically better anyway? And that's all I'm saying. It just seems like the bar is so low in the NBA. So that's my point. A couple others. Are you going to say something?
Well, I just while you're on that topic,
Yeah.
I just want to say if you want to see what Coach Tony said, because it's a lot, he
Yes.
breaks it into thirds as to why. It's on the Facebook page. I want to correct. I sort of corrected when you told me to guess the players last week. When you gave the names out,
Mm-hmm.
and I mentioned I would confuse it. I knew because Sean Merriman, who I was confusing it with.
Oh, Marion, I see.
Very close. And then because I'm like, okay, are we talking about a basketball player? Because I knew one of the players. I'm like, what are we talking about? And then Sean Merriman was a great linebacker for the then San Diego Chargers, which are now the Los Angeles Chargers. But I feel it's now that I don't know if we talked about this before. I remember growing up, whenever my dad when we talk football and he'd mention the Baltimore Colts, and I'd be like, I always think my dad, I'm like, you're so old, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm in Indianapolis. And I do it now that's I'm old now because of the Chargers. I will say, yeah, Sean Merriman played for the San Diego Chargers, and my son will be like, oh, you're so old. They're the LA Chargers. And it's just so the Chargers have become. I think the Chargers have become the Colts of Generation X.
Yeah, makes sense.
For our move. But what else do you got?
Gio, that's me. Tell Peyote, me and Mitch Album are coming for him for his little joke about short people. Deontay. Um, Max, we went back and forth, and a friend of ours, Matt, talked about certain criteria. So I'm not going to go into this because it would take too long, but are Blake Griffin and Chris Webber Hall of Famers? I say no. Um, by Tony's criteria, coming back to Tony, he would have to say yes to those two guys just on you know their backgrounds, all-star games, three-time members of all. I mean, some of these guys were both guys. Blake Griffin made the All NBA second team 3 times. Chris Webber was the All NBA first team once. You know, are those guys, or is it simply the championship? And all again, I'm just asking what is the criteria. And then where I really got hammered, and I took the brunt of this, using the derivatives of the name Mike. So here's Max, or no, actually, as this might have been Antoine. I think I posted this, but Max did give me a lot. If the Mikes are giving up a gimmick, Mike of the Week should go. Now they're stretching it to Mitch. Bring back the rap lyrics. So that was, I believe that was Antoine. And again, I sent the fact that Mitch is a derivative of Mike. Max commented about Marcia Tate being the best PD we've had. She's somewhat famous, and he's right. They were.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Mitch Album on the Mike wall. Really, yeah, the guys are really struggling to find mics. So yeah, we took a lot about that. So that's me. That wasn't you.
Perfect. I'll take that. So I'm gonna first of all, I'm always a fair guy. So I complained about the Mitch Albom technology column he did. His latest column, he wrote a piece about what's going on with the Blind Side drama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you read the column that he did, and it's the famous story of if you read it, there's 3 sides to every story.
Yeah.
And that's what his column is about. And I'm going to give him credit. That is a great column that more people need to understand that lesson, because like everything's political, right? Everything is back into your corner of what side you are. And when these stories first come out, like there's one side story, there's another side story, and then somewhere in there is the truth. And that's what he basically writes about. He does a really good job. He needs to stick to more stuff about that instead of get off my lawn guy. And I'm sure, and that is the truth with something like this. There's probably not one party that's all innocent and clean in all this. But if you immediately believe one side or the other, I think it's crazy. And that's what basically this
And
was.
Michael Orr had a axe to grind, rightfully, if you believe him. But he said this a long time ago. He didn't like the way the movie presented him to begin with.
Yeah.
And he's like, I wasn't an idiot. I wasn't this.
Yeah, I know.
So there was already that tension that was there, and I think that this, you bring money into the situation. I think a lot of things have just exacerbated the situation. So, and again, I did it in my history on film class. It's funny because I did in my history on film class this year, just ironically, based on a true story, so we can look at true stories and then dig in a little bit deeper and find out what liberties Hollywood took. The kids wanted me to show that, and I didn't. And this is again before this came out, because I said I just Michael Orr really was not happy with this movie. So, or maybe we put it to vote. I remember just mentioning that we put it to vote and it didn't quite make the cut. So let me backpedal what I said and just say that it didn't. I was happy though, because I knew how Michael Orr felt about the movie, and I just feel like if you have the main character or the main subject line of the movie that's not happy with it, that I didn't want to really show it for that reason. But that might have been a good one to dig deeper. So yeah, that's lots going on.
He's not going to be my Michael of the Week, by the way, but it is a possible one. Like I said, we still have lots of mics. Mine, and again, why did I pick this one? I don't know. There's no connection to anything, but it is a Michael. No derivatives, no anything like that. So the critics, don't worry, we're back to doing Michael. Still alive, so we'll go there. Older generation may remember him as Lenny from Laverne and Shirley.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if that's really, we got to be a little older. More people know him as Saul's brother in Better Call Saul. It's Michael McKean, 75 years old. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Actor. Wow. He's 75. Wow.
75. You do remember him as Lenny with Lenny and Squiggy?
Probably. I've seen him in other things. And the name, when you were mentioning, I did watch a little bit of Laverne and Shirley. I want to know what else I've seen him on. I'll get the credit.
Better Call Saul is his most recent, he was the brother that was sort of crazy and like had to have the house like all like,
I
he
never
was the
saw that. But I am looking at some stuff here now. So, but yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good
yeah,
one.
yeah. Well, he was nominated for an Emmy for his role in Better Call Saul. Sort of, he was always sort of like a bit actor like that, like a not the main star of anything, but
Right.
sort of the extra in there. So that is undergrad at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. That's where he did
Okay.
his undergrad.
Wow.
So that's our Mike of the week. Straight Michael, straight Mike. He's going up on the wall. So all right, education. We did this at the same time last year. This is our last full week off. We start back next Tuesday officially with PD. Monday, we're running the new teacher workshop, and with the floods and rains we had today, prep day has been moved to Monday. So it's going to be a busy week next week and totally at Carlson. So with that, we're going to take a look back at our summer. And what are your summer highlights?
So, you know what? I have a lot, but the one that really I think about the most is stuff involving my kids. I've done a few things this summer, but I my youngest daughter Melina and I worked together at the Carlson Water basketball camps.
Okay,
Or, I'm sorry,
nice.
basketball summer league. We did scoreboard kind of
Yes,
side by
that's right. Popped up there. Yeah.
yeah, Kristen's daughter Evelyn actually did it as well. We were all kind of working together, so that was cool because we were working together, and it was just a pretty neat moment. There's rumors that she might get to work the MYBL this year, the scoreboard.
Ooh.
I'm
Oh.
kind of excited about that, and she was able to take. Rob Raymond is very kind and generous with what he gives them when they work, and she was able to take some money home with her, buy a few things on Sheen. So that was cool. And then just overall the time with my oldest daughter, I feel like, we've always been close, but I feel as a high school teacher, I've always connected with that age group,
Mhm.
and I feel like we've connected more. She's going into 10th grade now. And so those are my two highlights, just connecting with my oldest daughter and then working with my youngest. Those are my two.
That is a nice benefit, that we've mentioned it before. It's one of our perks that our kids go to school with us. And then I had the year where Nate was a freshman and Chloe was a senior, and now Nate is obviously going into his junior year. I'm going to put it right out there. I was able to main thing with the busyness of the end of the year with coaching and working and negotiating the contract and serving as union president. Once summer hit, it was nice to be able to start walking my dog again and like have that open time of, it's a small thing, but both wellness wise, physical and mental. It's something I really look forward to. Couldn't do it today. Ella normally wakes us up at wakes me up at like 5:40, wanting to get that walk. She did not leave the bed today until 10:30 because she does
Oh
not like
man.
storms and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So no walk today. But that definitely the Mexico trip we took as a family. We sort of were coming to the realization that there aren't that many of those left with the age of our kids. So spending that week down there of just rest and relaxation and just time with each other. Moving Chloe back into Ann Arbor here at the end of the summer, the Sims run is always a highlight of the summer. I think it was a great event. But taking the time to move Chloe out to Ann Arbor in her new place, that's always exciting. I'm seeing a lot of posts now on social media. It's one of my favorite times besides graduation time when people post their graduation things. I love the parents posting the kids moving away for the first time or whether it's the second time or third time. It's always an exciting time for young people, and it's different, it's a change, and I know most of the people that we deal with that we've seen through the halls of Gibraltar, we know they're going to do well and succeed, but it's exciting, right? Like we've done this in an episode before and talked about what an exciting time of your life. It's a little scary but exciting, right?
Yeah, and I was just talking to Cliff Menser, a colleague of ours, and he just moved his son into Michigan State, and he mentioned all the emotions that kind of went with it. It's really interesting hearing that. Obviously, I haven't been there, but yeah. Let me ask you regarding your walks. I actually took my kids. I went on Detroit Wildlife Refuge. You ever been there?
Yes, I have. I've taken Ella there. Yeah.
Have you? It's man,
Mhm.
that is. If anybody that lives around here, it's on West Jefferson. It is amazing. It is
Free.
so free. The people there
Well,
are so.
some people will say you're U.S. federal income tax. We get it. All right. Senator Paul, we get it.
I knew. I
Nothing's
knew you were good. I
nothing's
could see it
free.
in your face.
John Dingle, thank you for your service and
I
spearheading
could.
that. But
We're not even in
you knew
person.
that.
I could see it in your face where you were
I
going.
know. That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Well,
I went to like when I went to the, I think I used it last time when I said I went to the DIA and it's free. Well, it's in your summer tax bill. I get it.
yeah, well, Kristen and I took a little walk there, and then I took both of my kids separately. And just when you mentioned the walks, they loved it. And honestly, if I really stop and think, maybe the highlight of my summer was both of them going and enjoying it. In fact, my
Yeah.
youngest one said to me, "Dad, when are we going again?" It was like pulling teeth getting them to go.
Did you
But
walk down that one path that goes like almost all the way to North Gibraltar?
I
That
didn't. We
Nate,
were kind of pressed for time, and oddly,
that's
both times I took my kids, it was ready to rain, so I didn't want to get
okay.
stuck.
Yeah, you
But
should check that out. So that's like that wilderness path, and you
yeah,
basically it goes south all the way to the northern tip of Gibraltar. And it's pretty nice. I mean, it's really just right up along the way. It'd probably be a mess right now with all the rain we had, so I would wait a little bit. But
yeah,
it's a
I'm sure.
nice.
Yeah,
That's where I would normally go. So that's a great place. One of those hidden gems down here that we sort of take advantage. You know, we mentioned the Metro Park. We take it for granted. That's another thing you take for granted. You drive up there, it's free to park. They got a
yeah,
beautiful fishing pier. We're very lucky with that. So yeah, so that stuff, and yeah, you mentioned good luck to Griffin at
yeah.
Michigan State, right? Like, what and how excited, you know, when you talk about the emotions, and I think I mentioned this before. The first time, like last year, seeing Chloe go away, there's a little sadness and like the house just being a little quieter, but she's happy there, and that's to me that overbalances me
Yes.
missing her. You know what I mean? Like that's Elise and I did our jobs in raising her, and if we raised her to the point where she's happy somewhere and she's thriving somewhere, then that should be the joy we have. You know,
Absolutely.
you know, so yeah, so we hope everyone else had a great summer. You know, it goes fast. I swear, it seems like we were doing the June episode where we had the whole summer in front of us, thinking about like all the spare time, and now next week we are officially back to work on Tuesday, right?
It's over. Yep, it's
Yeah, well,
over.
we might be working tonight. We got a football game, supposedly, like we think, right, against
Yeah,
Airport. So
we get it done up there too.
yes, all new equipment. So they were. Torres sent me a picture. Get this: the guy was installing this thing. They have a headset that I could wear instead of just using the mic. So I don't know if I'm going to look like John Madden up there, you know. So I don't have to have anything that I'm holding. My fear with that is we have hot mic issues as it is. Not
Oh,
that we say anything terrible on the mic sometimes, but we do sort of click it off and have our own little commentary, you know. So I got to be a little careful if I'm wearing that headset. The kill
this
button.
is it's my first game back. Now we did have a game after, but I wasn't able to work the scoreboard that day. It's my first game back since my flub when Jalen Franklin joined us, and
And my flub, yeah, it was we were all involved in that.
yeah.
So
But the problem was you can have a flub and it's okay. If I have a flub running the clock, it's
yeah.
that's a bigger problem, and I got
Well,
yelled
there's a
at.
difference between a playoff game and a week one. We'll be all right. All right. Education. I mean, overrated, underrated this week. I thought about it, something that made me think of paying for my son's parking pass. I think
Yeah.
your daughter's starting driver's ed, right? Or into
Oh,
driver's
she's
ed.
done. She's got a
She's
permit.
done segment two. She's got her permit. So you're in that stage. So, you know, it's always a big deal. So I put overrated, underrated. It's driver's ed / getting your driver's license. Now I sort of looked at this both on the parent end and as looking back as a kid end, and I'm going to maybe combine those two things. And so I would like to know what you think. What do you have as overrated with this nice broad topic? So it shouldn't have been a problem.
So overrated. This one, I don't. I think it goes Back to the Future. This scene where he arrives back in 1985, and the older gentleman is out crazy, teenage drivers, and that notion that teen drivers drive too fast. Now they should be more careful. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but my overrated is that notion. And I just looked up some numbers here. According to data, it's experienced drivers who really need to brush up on the rules. Studies show that individuals who are the ages of 50 and 64 are more likely to receive the speeding ticket in the past 5 years. Now, there's probably good reasons for that. I actually spoke to Max Bailey about this yesterday, and younger drivers don't drive as far nor as much. But you rarely hear about that. It's always younger drivers, those crazy younger
Yep.
drivers in the neighborhood. Drivers in the 30 to 49-year-old age range are the most ticketed. So older drivers get more tickets than younger ones, and 30 to 49 are the most ticketed. My overrated is the notion that teen drivers are these crazy drivers that need to slow down. It's actually other age brackets that get tickets more. So that's my overrated.
As you mentioned yours, I thought of, so like when we were driving, the cars were much less safer just as a design
Yes,
feature, right?
yes, yes.
There weren't airbags in our cars. There weren't, this automation. There's a lot of automation that alert, like my car. Again, I don't have this luxury sedan, but like if a brake light comes on in front of me and the car feels I'm going too fast, this red light like starts beeping and making a noise at eye level on my car. Little things like that, right? Like lane assist. But there also were less distractions when we were driving, I believe. Like we never had to worry about a phone. The radio was basically cassette. Maybe you had like the CD thing in there, but you were not really distracted. Your eyes were on the road. So I don't know if that sort of balances out. Now they're putting these laws in, and cars are, they're doing things where, we have the distracted driving law. But I wonder how that works in as well. And the cars are obviously much safer with airbags and that sort of thing. My overrated on the parent end is definitely once you get a licensed driver, what happens to your auto insurance. I get it, just a fact of life. It's just a punch in the gut. On the kid end, I'm thinking back to driver's ed. The most nerve wracking part, and I think even like talking to Nate, who just recently went with it, is drive. It was I would have had no problem, and I didn't really have problems, but it was always the audience, right? It was usually 3 kids, right? It wasn't just you and the instructor, right? So you always had an audience. So that to me was very anxious of a situation. Whether you were driving, even if you were driving fine, you get in the back. Like Nate told me about one time, like one of the sessions, he was with this kid, and this kid was like, the guy had to use the brake and grab the, like this kid was not, he had never driven before. I don't know what you did with your daughters, but like before Nate even went to driver's ed, we went up to the parking lot at school and had him drive around the lot just to get a feel of what a car is like, like how much gas you have to put on and that sort of thing. And I don't think this kid had ever even got behind the wheel. And Nate said it was awkward. And you're trying not to, I'd imagine you're trying not to laugh like when something like that happens in the back. So to me, that's definitely the overrated part, is the being packed in the car with other people and having an audience for your driving.
Good one. Good. Yeah, right. I did take my daughter, and it was because nobody took me. My first moment in the car was a disaster. The instructor had hit the brake
with that's what I mean. I don't know if it's necessarily, I don't think you're going to get in trouble in a parking lot. Like I think you should at least I'm not the go-to say all on laws, but I don't think if a cop pulls up on you and you're in an empty parking lot and there's a kid driving with their parent, they're going to throw you in jail. So I at least let them know the feel. I mean, like there's a lot of kids, if you've never driven a car before, you don't realize that putting it into drive, it moves without even hitting the gas, right? Like I still remember, the first time I showed Nate that and that's how you should really be like using it. Like when you're pulling into a driveway, you don't have to floor the gas going into a driveway, right? So, all right, what do you have as your underrated?
So I kind of went back and forth on this one. My second thought, I'm going to get to my underrated in a second. My second thought was just this notion. I mean, again, if you really stop and think about in the whole pantheon of human history, how little human beings have been able to move. Now, people have moved, but they had to move by foot. And just the notion that you as a young person have this power to just travel places that throughout human history has taken people a long time to do, and you could do it, in an afternoon. It's really, really cool when you think about it. But then the first thing I thought of was when I got my license. I was a junior in high school, and my mom said to me that you're paying your own insurance. And Mike, I was like heartbroken. Like, you're kidding me. I got to play basketball next year, and I'm playing sports, and you're going to make me pay my own insurance. And just kind of what you mentioned. And then I was talking to Max about this, and it's so true. I don't think people really think of how much goes into the power that you're given now, or the responsibility you're given to learn about finances, not just with insurance, but gas, and if you end up, God forbid, in an accident. I got into an accident my first year. A guy in front of me ran out of gas. It really generally wasn't my fault, but what happens then with your insurance and stuff like that? So I think the notion, the idea that you learn responsibility at a pretty young age of finances that young people really don't have. Right now, I think our kids we're taking to get ice cream whenever they want. They get all of these things whenever they want through most of their young lives, and now they might have to learn that you have to budget things, and money is not, it's $3.50 a gallon is not cheap. And, so I think the idea,
you may not decide you don't want to go and do that thing when it's
right.
Like I purposely, there are days where I combine trips and then I don't do anything the next day, not because I want to sit in the house all day, but like, I'm not going to go drive around to another place to do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Nate, this summer he took up golf, and it was between my wife and I were like an ATM to pay. Like he asked for money, and then finally we said enough is enough, and he's now working. And and we basically said, and we know, we want our kids to be able to do stuff, enjoy stuff.
Sure.
I don't want him to do it 4 times a week,
Right.
and this sort of thing. So he's working now and understanding. And my daughter, like I said, mentioned working up at Captain Jim's. She is not working during the college school year, which is something when we tell her, but you got to work your tail off in the summer and build up that
Sure.
account. And
Mhm.
I get it. I get it. My underrated, and this is, I'm going to, I mentioned as a parent and as a driver, it's freedom. It's the ability
Yeah.
for, but it's also for the parent. Like I'm done having to run Nate to sports
Mhm.
practice or to those years when they're ninth and most of 10th grade. We carpool with people, and we I'll mention Coach Saavedra. They were great for during basketball season. We would share taking turns driving, and then all of a sudden someone turns 16 and you're done. You don't have to make those runs anymore. But also, I know I read somewhere, sometimes someone said, sometimes those were always nice, like driving your kids somewhere. They got to, for my house to Carlson, obviously, but I think back to like
Sure.
gymnastics practice. That time in the car, where there were some good
Bonding
conversations and stuff.
experiences, yeah.
But it also gets nice to get to a point of instead of every Monday, I don't have to do it anymore. Or even like, you don't feel like cooking. Who's the one that always had to run and go get a pizza or whatever? It would be me. Well, now, you know what, Nate, you go pick it
Yeah.
up.
Well,
You
now
sort.
you can, if Nate has practice on a Thursday night, you could stay home and watch the Lions victory instead of having a dream.
That's right. That is one of the few games that people have them losing this year in their picks. But you never know, man. It's rare that Super Bowl champion loses at home in week one. It's a tough.
It
It is
is.
I remember a few years ago, New England, not a few years ago, but when New England won the Super Bowl and it was Pittsburgh versus them in week one, and Pittsburgh went up there and it was just a buzzsaw. And it was a pretty good Steeler team. I think that was like the Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and they just got destroyed.
Mm.
It's a hard thing to walk into. So we'd love to hear what your overrated, underrated is about driving, getting your license. Okay. Hot mic take. You said before we went on that you had something that, what, serious or
Yeah.
earthbreaking or?
Okay, so I'm gonna go a couple different directions with this. And Sinead O'Connor recently passed away, and she had this covered the song by Prince, "Nothing Compares to You," and it's amazing. It's maybe the best breakup song. I just so powerful. Prince did it, Sinead O'Connor did it, and then Chris Cornell did it. All three, may they all rest in peace. And I found that to be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure others have as well, but those to me are the three most famous, and especially the last two. Sinead O'Connor and Chris Cornell doing that song is just unreal. And it just like, wow, they're all dead. And then I started thinking about Sinead O'Connor herself, and her incident on Saturday Night Live. And I'm prefacing by saying this is not meant to offend anybody. I want to make that as abundantly clear as I can. But for those that don't know, in 1992, she went on and ripped up a picture of the Pope. And I'm asking you now, and again, not trying to gotcha you, do you know why she did it?
Does it have? I'm gonna guess it. I don't. I remember reading it. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't have confidence in my answer. Like if this was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I wouldn't
Sure.
die on this hill because I don't remember if it was. Was it abortion? Was it related to abortion, or was it related to Northern? Was it related to Ireland, or neither of those?
If you're referring to the Troubles, no, it was about abuse in the church.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. That's what it was. That was, yeah.
Child
Okay.
abuse. And I dug a little bit deeper on this, and I was in, I believe if it was 92 or during the late or early 92, I would have been in 8th grade, and I was horrified. And the next week, Joe Pesci went on the show and talked about how if he was the star, he would have slapped her. His words. Okay, and I'm not attacking Joe Pesci for this because I know a lot of people were offended by it, but she did it. And you can make the case, and actually I've read this, look, digging deeper, Madonna made the case that maybe she should have come up with something else symbolically. I don't know what she could have done. She did not, nobody knew to do it, even in rehearsal she didn't do it. I don't know what she could have done to broadcast what she was trying to say, but she took a lot of heat, and she's been vindicated. And then I dug even deeper. She herself was a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
So how, I don't know, maybe I was a little young to really even, the internet wasn't a thing, so I couldn't have found out as to why she did it later, at the time. But man, she was right. And I just wonder, I want to know from the listener, number one, did you know that? Because I'm asking you, Mike, and again, I'm not, there's no
I
gotcha
do
involved,
remember that now as the reason. Yeah.
but is there anybody else that you could think of? There's a few historically speaking, Galileo as an example, but that was totally vindicated, and totally right on something they did. Even if you think the method in which she did it was wrong, nobody denies that the abuse happened, and the fact that she herself was a victim of it, and then took so much heat from so many people after the fact. I want to just think of if what your memories of it are, and if you can think of anybody else who history has totally said, you were right, and most other people were wrong. It's a horrible
Couple
story.
thing, couple things. First of all, Chris Cornell passed in Detroit, right? You know that, right? He was found, I think it was the MGM Grand
Okay,
Hotel.
no, okay.
That's a side point. You just
I
brought
did
up
not
one
know
earlier.
that.
I think too, as you were telling the story, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm thinking back to, and again, maybe I'm thick-skinned. I don't know. And I am a Catholic. I'm a confirmed Catholic, and but
Likewise.
people tearing a photograph, like I could print a photo right now from this printer. Okay, symbolically, it's not like, to me it'd be like more offensive. First of all, like I say, physically doing something to somebody is always the worst of the worst,
Sure.
like we talk about. But like, even like, she didn't like burn a Bible on the stage. She took
Right.
a photograph, a piece of paper that, okay, did this really even hurt the Pope in any way? Or, photos of people aren't these, and this wasn't like it was a piece of artwork either. Okay, like some, Lorne Michaels had a portrait on
Right.
the wall because it was like a, commissioned artwork. It was a picture she printed up and tore up. It's like, looking
And she
back
was
at it, I'm like,
trying to draw attention to a cause,
yeah.
which again
I,
has
I
been
mean, I'm
acknowledged.
well, yeah, but even the side, like the physical act, the physical object, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's a picture.
Yeah.
You could rip up pictures of hundreds of people. Weird time. It was a weird time. I think, but of course, people. I would say people don't get as offended as people are probably worse nowadays. People.
I think
People.
so. And
People.
maybe it's
People
just they're more
boycott.
vocal. They have more platforms to do so, as opposed to 92. Like I said, there's no internet at the time. So, but man, I really just reading her story, then reading her comments about it after. And again, maybe I'm wrong because I was young, but I don't think people really even wanted to hear her, what she had to say.
No.
So, but man,
But the truth came out, and it's an awful
yes,
truth. So,
yes.
all right, my overrated underrated, also, it's not kind of serious. We opened the show with it. I just want to say, with the rain and the flooding, I see like some people commenting, like this was like 4.5 inches down here. Okay, it was substantial, and I think the infrastructure can only water always wins. My dad always used to say, water. My dad still says, water always wins, right?
Yeah.
Like we knew this, and yeah, and we're a little lucky here. I know some people have it worse, whatever, but I don't, these communities didn't do anything wrong. They have these systems for what normal ex expected rainfall would be. What happened last night was beyond that. And that's sort of what happens sometimes with this. There's no easy solution. Now, I know there's been communities around us. I know like Dearborn Heights, there's some communities where stuff was just built poorly and they overbuilt or whatever. But I think for the most part, down by us, like you said, you got some flooding on Mother's Day last year. I don't think there's like this frequent flooding, right? Like, and we live right near Lake Erie, right? So I think and I know people are angry and people are upset. I get it. I totally get it. My basement had water a little while ago, more on our fault because our sump pump didn't work, but I get it. It's a very frustrating and annoying situation. But I think blaming the government and local communities, I think the blame is misplaced. Sometimes things just happen that the natural, or not the natural, the infrastructure just can't handle it. They talk about 75 and these, the airport, most of the Wayne County money goes to like the airport, right? That flooded today. Like, it got to a point of,
Yeah.
even where most of the money is, I'm sure we have our best infrastructure out there near 94 and 275, because this is a major area of operation that flooded. Okay. Like, so I think just put it in perspective, understand. It rained, Mike, what do you think, steady last night from like midnight to like 5 in the morning, right? Like, just
Yeah.
solid.
Yes.
Like you're not gonna. Things reach a certain point where it's not going to keep up. It's not going to keep up, and it sucks. I hope everyone's okay. I hope that we're still waiting. I hope that everything up at the school's okay. If you did have damage, I'm sorry, but try to understand. I think that was not a normal storm last night, right? I think everyone even said that. Like it was crazy. So. All right, so last week of the preseason, the Lions, man, took a tough loss to the Jaguars. Now, from what I've read, I was reading on this. I think week 3 is. I saw something. The Steelers plan to play starters for most of the first quarter versus Atlanta. So week 3, I think, is this game where we try to get, your main reps. I don't know. How do you feel now after 2 weeks? The Teddy Bridgewater signing may not be as celebrated as it was before the game. So.
Well, I
Where
don't
are
think the
you?
Lions are playing. I don't think they're playing. They're going to play anybody though. So I think that's a unique to each individual team.
But the word I'm getting, here's what I'm getting. And tell me if because I'm not following everything that goes on. This Bridgewater isn't that good, and then behind the 5 starters on the offensive line, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, like
So if somebody goes down on that offensive line, there could be some issues. Is that the gist of where we are with the Lions?
Yeah. But the offensive line, those 5 guys are pretty damn
and
amazing.
I don't want to jinx any. I'm not doing this to be a jerk. Offensive line is usually a position. They hold pretty steady. I mean, that's a place where you've had guys play their whole career and never miss a game, right? Like, the guy from the Cleveland Browns, right? Was it Joe Thomas? Is it Joe Thomas?
Thomas,
Like, I don't even.
I mean, but the same.
Baselli, like these guys, they played for years. I mean, there's obviously injuries that happen, but that seems to be an area where, they're well protected. So, fantasy football draft. Do you have yours coming up? Right?
Yeah, Monday. Do you want to hear my strategy?
No, I don't, and nobody wants to hear mine for Saturday.
What is Saturday?
I'd be more interested in food or drink with it, but we're not going to talk about that.
Where do you pick? Do you know where you pick yet?
I'm number 2 overall in a non-keeper league, so it's number 2.
Okay.
12 teams.
Are you thinking Christian McCaffrey or Justin Jefferson?
No, I'm not. I think I'm not. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that's listening to this.
What about Mahomes?
And I'm not going to give away. I'm not going to give away. I think I'm going to do Pickens and Pickett, the Steeler connection.
Jeff Simons will love that.
So we want to wish all of our friends that have already started back a great school year. We will see all of our friends on Tuesday, Gibraltar School District people. We will see. Oh, one more thing. One thing I want to talk about with the PD development. I don't know if you saw, I shared it with you and Max, the Houston superintendent down in the new Hoops Houston, who's sent there by the state to save Houston school. We've had this sort of here happen in Michigan. First thing he did was like cut half his librarians. But he did a skit to start. Did you watch that TikTok that I sent?
I did.
A full out acting skit. It was so bad. It was so cringeworthy. It made me think of 212. And I think I got to
say that's 212.
Right? But I don't. Were those other teachers with him on the stage? Like, could you imagine if you were like a non-tenured teacher and they're like, "Hey, you got to get up here and act this skit out"?
Bullied into that. Jeez, oh Pete. Oh.
I think I may have retired like 1 year in. Like, I got to find that clip. We'll put that on the Facebook page so people can enjoy that PD. Which,
oh man, like
then they had the union. Then they had the union president complaining about how out of touch it was. Stuff. Yeah. What it would told me. I don't know what made me think about it just now. I think going back to, I'm sure we will not have anything like that. Have a great week, everybody. Good. Hope maybe I'll see you tonight. Hope we'll see you tonight at the football game. See you soon.